provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines at first at 9, contradicting global sentiment. Member of the British House of Lords, Baron Nesby, opens up on Sri Lanka's current political situation.
I see nothing that's happened that is unconstitutional. It's unusual, yes.
Commonwealth has its say. Secretary-General Patricia Scotland urges a solution to the current political situation through dialogue. Parliament matters. Deputy Secretary-General of Parliament aligns conduct with the Gazette notification issued by the President. Cold feet. UNP's Manusha Nanayakkara, who defected to the interim government, resigns from his ministerial position in a U-turn. The last outing. Rangana Herath becomes the second player to take 100 test wickets at the Galle International Stadium. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. Now let's start with the local stories. Deepavali festival, also known as the Festival of Lights, which is significant for Hindu devotees, falls today and is celebrated world over. It is also considered to be the most colourful festival of the Hindu religion. Deepavali festival is celebrated annually on the day the moon is not visible and Hindu devotees light lamps and bring light, diminishing darkness. A special Deepavali celebration was held at the President's official residence last evening under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, Opposition Leader R. Sambandhan and Minister Douglas Devananda were also present at the event. In the meantime, President Maithripala Sirisena extended his wishes to the Hindu community celebrating the Deepavali festival. In a communique, the President says that cultural ceremonies such as Deepavali plays a pivotal role in building coexistence and reconciliation among different communities that suffered numerous adversities due to separation between communities over the past decades. Meanwhile, in his Deepavali message, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa wished that this festival of lights removes darkness from the lives of people and bring happiness to everyone. Opposition Leader R. Sambandhan also issued a message to devotees to mark the Deepavali festival. He says that at a time when hopes and expectations of people are in chaos, he wishes that dark forces would turn to better and truth and justice be established. The 51st death anniversary of known politician D.A. Rajapaksa falls today and the commemoration ceremony was held in Tangul. Several other functions were also held to commemorate the late politician in the south, which were attended by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The 51st commemoration of former Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who was also a former Deputy Speaker of Agriculture and Lands, late D.A. Rajapaksa, was held at the D.A. Rajapaksa Memorial in Tangul this morning under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa and several other politicians were also in attendance. Meanwhile, 200 school students were offered scholarships at another function worked off to commemorate the late politician at the Tangul Town Hall. It was also held under the auspices of Prime Minister Rajapaksa. Later, the Prime Minister also paid his last respects to late SLPP member of Hakmana Pradesha Sabha L.H. Shanta. The Pradesha Sabha member was shot last Sunday by unidentified gunmen. Commonwealth Secretary-General Patricia Scotland urges political leaders and people of Sri Lanka to engage in constructive dialogue and ensure that the country's constitution and the rule of law are upheld. Scotland also states that the Commonwealth remains ready to assist and will collaborate with other international partners to provide support to the government of Sri Lanka and its citizens. Office of Commonwealth Secretary-General Patricia Scotland issued a statement today on the unfolding political situation in Sri Lanka, emphasising the importance of the role of Parliament as provided for under the Constitution. Through the statement, Scotland expressed hope that the Parliament would meet soon as possible to resolve the current crisis in the country. She also urges all political leaders and citizens to engage in a constructive dialogue to resolve issues while ensuring that the country's constitution and the rule of law are upheld. She adds that the Commonwealth remains ready to assist and will collaborate with other international partners to provide support if required by the government and the people of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the newly appointed US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena Teplitz, met with Speaker Karu Jayasuriya today. The US Ambassador, in a Twitter message, said that the meeting was to discuss the importance of reconvening the Parliament in order to put an end to the prevailing political crisis in the country. She further says that these democratic institutions should serve the people of Sri Lanka and to let the elected representatives have their say. In the meantime, Deputy Secretary-General of Parliament, Neil Iddawala, says that the Parliament staff is compelled to perform their duties according to the Gazette notification issued by the President. The Gazette issued by the President said that the prorogued Parliament will be convened on the 14th of this month. The Deputy Secretary-General of Parliament added that his staff will only make the seating arrangements on the 13th, hoping that all crossovers would be done by then. Now, member of the British House of Lords, Lord Baron Nesby, is unhappy with the junior British minister who suggested in the House of Lords that the political changes Sri Lanka underwent recently are unconstitutional. Lord Nesby insists that action taken by President Maithripala Sirisena were taken with the best interests of the country at heart.
As far as I can see, there's nothing unconstitutional. Every country has its constitution. I see nothing that's happened that is unconstitutional. It's unusual, yes, but we've had unusual things in the UK. We were supposed to have a fixed-term parliament, 5 years fixed, but we never got that far. It was cut short. So these things happen, these things change. And I'm sure those who are involved, particularly the President, who is elected, an executive, he will have acted in the interests of the country. Of that I'm quite sure. I've met him on a number of occasions. I think he's a very wise man, and I'm sure whatever action he's decided will have been in the interests of the country. And it's not for a foreigner to determine whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional. And I am unhappy that a former British junior minister put down a question suggesting it was unconstitutional. That is not the role, I believe, of the UK parliamentarians. You know, you have your own constitution. We as UK, people who take an interest in Sri Lanka, of course want to help Sri Lanka. But I've been very careful over my 50 years plus of never supporting any one party or doing any business. And I would suggest to my colleagues that they do exactly the same.
Now, keeping with the topic, the appointment of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to the premiership has sent ripples across the world, carried particularly by international media. Some global media outlets describe the situation as a political crisis, with the phrase constitutional crisis also used. What is more alarming is the use of the word bloodbath in describing what's to come. A former UN representative of Sri Lanka in Geneva believes a foreign agenda is at play. Following Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's appointment to the post by President Maithripala Sirisena, Sri Lanka went on to make headlines in international media. The word crisis was very much favoured by them in its various forms when describing the recent political manifestations in the country. Some called it a constitutional crisis, while others said it is a political crisis. International media was very quick to suggest that the situation could develop into what they called a bloodbath. The ground situation, however, could not be further from the truth. There have not been any bloodshed over the ousting of the then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. So why the distortion? Former representative of Sri Lanka at the United Nations in Geneva, Tamara Kurunayagam, gave an answer to that question as she addressed media recently.
The message that is going through is that this is an anti-democratic coup. Now, that is a language that was used by the former Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira and by the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. And it is the whole discussion is presented as an unconstitutional decision taken by the president of the country. This is a one-sided support. There is no reflection of what the other side is saying or what the ordinary people are saying. Another thing that's coming in the media, in the Western media, is this talk about bloodbath. Again, it's coming from that same side. Inside Sri Lanka, the killing of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation worker is unacceptable, any killing. But the way it's presented as though this is what's happening. Everybody's being killed in the country. And they don't say that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation worker was actually killed by the security officer of the last government, the previous minister. So it's not said. And then, of course, they present Mahinda Rajapaksa as a Chinaman. This is totally wrong and misleading. And this has to do with the particular geopolitical, strategic interests of those who are propagating that line. When the previous Prime Minister, together with the President, dissolved Parliament to prevent the COPE report on the central bank bond issue scam being made public, then there's silence on the postponement of the local government elections for nearly 2 years by the previous regime. Then there is a silence when the same President appointed a Prime Minister in January 2015, when UNF had only 60 seats in Parliament, 46 for UNP. Nobody said at that time that he didn't have the numbers.
Kurunayagam was also critical of the special meeting foreign envoys had inside Temple Trees with the ousted Prime Minister.
The procedure is that they have to go, the normal channel is you go through the Foreign Secretary. The Western countries have systematically violated that fundamental principle. Let's say they had to talk to the President or they had to speak to the Prime Minister, then they could have met with the President of the country instead of staying out of that problem that has been created artificially by those who have been defeated. I disagree that this is a political crisis. Following that special meeting in Temple Trees, that's when the narrative was spread. Soon after that this was unconstitutional. So there was a kangaroo court, in fact, effectively functioning inside Temple Trees. And it comes as an order because it's always connected to the Human Rights Council Resolution 30/1, which you all know that resolution itself violates international law. Also through sanctions, threats of sanctions, travel advisories. And that is why the whole story about bloodbath in the country, or that what is this crisis? The real issue is, it is the opposite of what is described as, they describe as an anti-democratic coup. It's a result of the legitimate reaction of a people to a systemic crisis caused by a Western-backed regime of Ranil Wickremesinghe, of which the people have been victims. And they have been reacting to this, the people. And they have been out on the street, and there have been strikes. There are struggles going on. I haven't seen anything reported on that outside.
Former representative of Sri Lanka at the United Nations in Geneva, Tamara Kurunayagam, also ventured on what action those who bemoan the regime change could do.
But I know that Article 125 of the Constitution says if there is a difference on interpretation of the Constitution, you go to the Supreme Court. Why is Ranil Wickremesinghe not going to the Supreme Court? A Constitution is based on the will of the people. And how do you go to the people? You call an election. Why are they not calling for a general election?
Deputy Minister Manusha Nanakkara today resigned from his portfolio and pledged support to leader of the UNP, former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. In a letter to President Maithripala Sirisena, Nanakkara stated that his decision was taken by keeping with his democratic and political beliefs as well as conscience. Manusha Nanakkara was sworn in as the Deputy Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment of the interim government on the 1st of November. Nanakkara today tendered his resignation today and said in a letter addressed to President Maithripala Sirisena that his decision was taken by keeping with his democratic and political beliefs as well as conscience. Quoting the recent letter by Speaker Karu Jayasuriya to the President, the parliamentarian announced that he will recognise Ranil Wickremesinghe as the legitimate Prime Minister of the country. Nanakkara later met with former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at Temple Trees. A special media briefing was then held at Temple Trees today regarding the U-turn. Manusha Nanakkara tendered his resignation to both the President and Secretary to the Ministry. Although he didn't come here due to security reasons, we will release his video statement. A video statement by parliamentarian Nanakkara was then played to media. I can't join the government with a good conscience after seeing the new ministerial appointments and political turbulence. That is why I decided to resign from my deputy ministerial position and uphold democracy within the parliament as requested by the public and majority of the parliamentarians. I will now fight to ensure democracy within the country.
මට කරන්න පුළුවන් සටන දියත් කරන්න මම සූදානම් කියන එක මම ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Deputy Minister of Eastern Development S. Velendiran, who joined the interim government from the Tamil National Alliance, moved to explain his defection today. He said that he decided to join the interim government after the president agreed to release lands in the north and east, which are presently under the occupation of the army, by the 31st of December. He added that positive feedback on the release of political prisoners was also a factor while addressing a media briefing held at the Prime Minister's office today. The President made an open invitation to join the new government, but the Prime Minister didn't invite me. The President said that he will release lands in the north and east which are under the army occupation before the 31st of December. The President also gave a positive reply regarding political prisoners. The only good thing the former government did for the Eastern Province is Aloysius's 4.5 billion rupee ethanol factory. If the TNA supports Ranil Wickremesinghe, I will support the new Prime Minister. I will remain unbiased if the TNA decides to do the same. They are protecting the government by staying as the opposition. I haven't left the party. Despite all the big talk of the previous government, I couldn't do anything for the people over the past 3 years. We can work for the minority only if we stay in the government. Otherwise, what can we do? Take arms? We met with the Secretary to the Ministry of Finance yesterday and an agreement had been made to increase the daily wage by a considerable amount. Discussions were fruitful. Meanwhile, Buddhist clergy also expressed their views regarding the prevailing political situation in the country. As did the kings in the past, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa also united the country. Leaders of the United National Party must now save the party from Ranil Wickremesinghe. The temple trees is maintained with the taxpayers' money and citizens have the right to take legal action against anyone who occupies it forcefully. There are parties held at temple trees at present and we filed a complaint with the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division over it. Now, General Secretary of the United National Party, Akila Viraj Karyavasam, is confident that 15 from the UPFA-led interim government will vote in favour of their faction in Parliament. He expressed these views while addressing a media briefing held in Temple Trees today. About 15 parliamentarians and ministers have confirmed their support for the UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe during the vote against this unconstitutional process.
රැස්වීමේ සිටියා ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී දැනුවත් කරේ කතානායකතුමා ප්‍රසිද්ධ නිවේදනය කරපු දේ පිටරට නියෝජිතයන් සමග සාකච්ඡා කිරීම තමයි වාජනයට ලක් කරේ. ඊයේ කතානායකතුමාගේ
With the statement issued by the Speaker, we have decided to stay in our ministries. We know that the police have reduced our security, including that of the Prime Minister, which is now down to 10 personnel. Therefore, my subject minister, Ranjit Maddumbandara, has informed the Inspector General of Police to provide security as before. In the meantime, leader of the United National Party, Ranil Wickremesinghe, remained at the Temple Trees today as well. Moving on with other local stories, a low-pressure zone has developed over southwest Bay of Bengal last night, bringing heavy showers and severe weather conditions to all districts in the country. Since then, several districts in the central, southern and north-central provinces have been affected. Meanwhile, 2 persons died today owing to an accident caused by severe weather in Kandy. The Department of Meteorology, meanwhile, advises public, naval and fishing communities to be vigilant on weather advisories. The low-pressure zone developed over the southwest Bay of Bengal is expected to move westwards across the southern part of Sri Lanka and emerge in the sea area of Cape Comorin tomorrow. The system is then expected to move westwards over the next 3 days. The Department of Meteorology says that the effect of the system will enhance rain and winds tonight and tomorrow. Very heavy rainfalls, about 150 millimetres, are expected in the Sabaragamuwa, Central, Uva, Eastern and North Central provinces. Severe lightning and temporary strong winds up to 70 to 80 kilometres per hour are also forecast during thunder showers. This low-pressure zone brought heavy rainfall to the area of Galkotwe in Kandy last night, with an uprooted tree falling on a three-wheeler along the Ragala-Kottamba road this morning. 5 people travelling in the three-wheeler were immediately admitted to hospital, but 2 of them succumbed. Heavy rainfalls have forced 8 spill gates of the Parakrama Samudra reservoir to be opened by 4 feet, while another 2 spill gates by 2 feet as the reservoir reached spill level. 4 spill gates of the Victoria reservoir were also opened this morning. 6 out of 7 spill gates of the Ulhitia Ratkanda reservoir in Giranrukote are also opened. The Disaster Management Centre warns residents in low-lying areas to be cautious as a result. In the meantime, 2 spill gates of the Mahakanadarawa reservoir in Anuradhapura are also opened for the first time in 3 years following heavy falls. 4 spill gates of the Rajangane reservoir and 2 spill gates of the Angamu reservoir are also opened. Other than a reporter in Anuradhapura said some low-lying areas of the sacred city are submerged after river Malwatuoya broke its banks. Meanwhile, a landslip in Kehelpannala junction along the Hemmatakmagampola road led to traffic being limited to 1 lane today. In the meantime, naval and fishing communities are also advised to follow necessary instructions by the Department of Meteorology, as rough seas are expected in the coastline extending from Potwil to Colombo via Batticaloa, Trincomalee, Kankasanture and Putlam. Traffic-related injuries, drowning and burns, as well as violence-related injuries such as those resulting from child abuse and youth violence are reported on a daily basis. According to the World Health Organization, each year 1.5 million people lose their lives owing to violence, while 2,300 children die every day from injuries. In order to address this grave issue, the World Health Organization held the 13th World Conference on Injury Prevention and Safety Promotion to spread awareness and bring to light the importance of not taking safety for granted. First at 9's Katrina Chang has more on the story.
Injuries and violence are a major public health burden across the globe. The 13th World Conference on Injury Prevention and Safety Promotion, Safety 2018, brought together over 1,000 of the world's leading researchers, practitioners, policymakers and activists in 90 countries to share information and experiences and to discuss solutions. This year, the conference was held under the theme Advancing Injury and Violence Prevention Towards SDGs in Bangkok, Thailand, under the auspices of the Princess of Thailand, Her Excellency Mahachakri Sirindon. WHO's global ambassador, granddaughter of the late Nelson Mandela, Zoleka Mandela too was present for the occasion, where she spoke on the loss of a 13-year-old daughter by a drunk driver on a Johannesburg road. If there were few matters that were discussed at the Safety 2018 World Conference, it is for the need to address road safety issues around the world. Now, the World Health Organization called for more stringent policies as well as action plans that need to be addressed or need to be introduced into government systems in order to address road accidents or curtail road accidents by 50%. In an exclusive interview with First at 9, Director of Department for Management of Non-Communicable Diseases, Disability, Violence and Injury Prevention of the World Health Organization, Dr. Etienne Krug, said that political will is required in order to address issues pertaining to injury prevention and safety promotion.
You know, I think all countries need political leadership from the top. It needs to be put high on the political agenda, and there needs to be clear accountability. We need to know who is in charge and who will do what in order to be able to hold people accountable. And then it's a question of looking at the legislation. Is it the best? But also making sure that the laws are being enforced. And then, of course, infrastructure. Too many kids have to walk to school on the street with big cars and trucks and buses just passing next to them. We need to make sure that people can walk and bicycle safely to school, to work and everywhere they want to go.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. The Indian rupee recovered 21 cents to 72 rupees and 91 cents against the US dollar earlier today on increased selling by exporters. According to dealers, a US dollar's weakness against some currencies overseas and a better opening of the domestic equity market also supported the rupee. At the interbank forex market, the rupee opened strong at 72 rupees and 98 cents against the dollar and advanced further to trade at 72 rupees and 91 cents, reflecting a rise of 21 cents over its previous close. Yesterday, the Indian rupee tumbled 67 cents to close at 73 rupees and 12 cents against the US dollar on increased demand for the American currency from importers and unabated foreign fund outflows. Now, the Tokyo stocks opened higher today as the dollar held steady against the yen with a growing wait-and-see mood ahead of US midterm elections. The benchmark Nikkei 225 index rose 138.93 points to 22,037.92 in early trade, while the broader Topix index was up 7.74 points at 1,648.13. The dollar was holding firm, changing hands at 113.23 yen against 113.2 yen in New York yesterday afternoon, ahead of polls seen as a referendum on President Donald Trump's performance since taking the White House. Investors hardly reacted to Japanese government data that showed household spending slipped 1.6% year-on-year in September, confirming consumption remains slack. Now, moving on to news from overseas, America is heading to the polls today for the first time since Donald Trump took office, with majorities in both the House of Representatives and the Senate hanging in the balance. US President Trump has used nationwide campaign blitz to issue dire warnings about the threat posed by illegal immigration and claim credit for the soaring US economy. Spearheaded in the final few days by former President Barack Obama, Democrats have focused on healthcare, an issue ranked high on voters' list of priorities and one the party leadership believes is a Republican weak spot. US President Donald Trump has made a last bid for voters to back the Republican Party on the eve of the nationwide election that is seen as a referendum on his presidency. During a blitz of 3 final rallies, Trump said everything they achieved is at stake. His ability to govern in the final 2 years of the term will hinge upon the outcome of these midterm elections. Voter turnout is expected to be high, with many already casting their ballot. At stake are 435 seats in the House of Representatives and 35 of 100 seats in the Senate, the 2 bodies that make up Congress. Governors are also being chosen in 36 out of 50 seats. Former President Barack Obama on the campaign trail for the Democratic Party said the character of the country is on the ballot. The former president took to Twitter to say, quote, "The election might be the most important of our lifetimes," unquote. Now, it has emerged that the passenger jet, which crashed into the sea near Indonesia last week, had an airspeed indicator problem on its final 4 flights. The damage to the device, which tells pilots how fast their planes are traveling, was revealed after the recovery of a black box recorder. Lion Air flight JT610, carrying 189 people, crashed soon after takeoff from Indonesia's capital, Jakarta. Indonesia's National Transportation Safety Committee, the KNKT, said yesterday that an airspeed indicator of the Boeing 737 MAX plane, which crashed last week, killing all 189 people on board, was damaged for its last 4 flights. The damage was revealed after data had been downloaded from the plane's flight data recorder. KNKT chief said that it was asking Boeing and US authorities what action to take to prevent similar problems on this type of plane around the world. Authorities have yet to recover the jet's cockpit voice recorder from the sea floor just northeast of Jakarta, where the plane crashed 13 minutes into the flight. The Lion Air crash was the first involving the type of plane which airlines introduced into service last year. Safety experts say it is too early to determine the cause of the crash on the 29th of last month.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Now on to your weather forecast. As we mentioned earlier, heavy showers and thunder showers are expected tonight and tomorrow under the influence of the low pressure zone in the southwest Bay of Bengal. Heavy to very heavy falls of about 100 to 150 millimeters can be expected in the northern, north-central, eastern, over northwestern and central provinces. Naval and fishing communities are also advised to be vigilant in the coming days as rough seas are expected in the coastal belt extending from Pottuil to Colombo via Trincomalee, Kankasanture and Putlam. And here's a look at your city-by-city forecast. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. And before we go, we'd like to take you to Belihulloya in Ratnapura district. Now, this beautiful land is located in an area which links both the wet and dry zones as well as the hill and low countries. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.